watching the documentary myself, you actually attribute the success of FrightFest because of the camaraderie that came out of the video Nasties and the underground movement. Am I correct in saying that?
Yeah, I think so, because when I was very, very young, when Alan was older than me, I went to see the Shock Around the Clock festivals, which Alan curated, and that really made a big impression on me, and that was what I took as the spawn for the original FrightFest. I knew that I had to have Alan involved, who was amazing, and I hope now that FrightFest has continued on that tradition from the original Shock Around the Clocks to today.
Was it interesting for you, Alan, when you did Shock Around the Clock, just how many people were really, really keen to have...
Yes. It's interesting this because what we used to show at Shock Around the Clock was never really going to be theatrical stuff anyway. It was always going to be stuff that went straight to video anyway. So we knew going in that we were appealing to that particular audience. It was very rare, actually, I think, that we got a theatrical film, really. So we knew what our audience was. And I think Paul's exactly right. I mean, because I've been around when the whole Video Nasties thing happened, and I was sort of like very much at the vanguard of that. I knew what was going on, and I just thought, hang on a minute, this can't be right. We've got to make sure there's a place for people to come along and actually be together and be a community and make sure that we're not going to put up with this. It was quite scary at that time. I think the film actually puts this across very well, the fact that people were really quite scared. This could never happen again. I think we would have so many people, what with social media, all coming together very, very quickly. There it was the Scala that you had to know about through underground sort of channels. Now it would be different. But back then, when you found somebody who you actually thought, oh my God, a like-minded person who knows this stuff isn't gory rubbish and causes people to go out and murder, I found somebody, it was like Nirvana. So I was really pleased to be able to sort of furnish that.
Was it interesting as well, the whole kind of censorship, the kind of fine line between what is censorship and what is trying to control what people do and what they say and what they think, really?
Yes, and I think it's ongoing, to be honest with you. I mean, Human Centipede 2, which had massive problems, Serbian film. So I do think that England is a totally different country to a lot of the rest of the world, where they try and kind of dictate what we view and what you can and cannot view. But obviously with the whole internet, it's changed everything, isn't it?
And we see you in Jake's and Mark's film here, Video Nasties. What was it like for you being a part of the documentary? How important was it for you guys to have a voice and be able to tell this story?
Well, for me it was very important because I was there at the time. In fact, they've got some vintage clips of me doing exactly...
Yeah, a great suit.
What's this suit?
An amazing suit.
I mean, I feel like I've been saying the same stuff for 30 years, but you can't say the same stuff for 30 years. It's important stuff. I mean, we can't be controlled by this. I mean, I've always said that, if I was ever going to go out and commit a murder, I have the perfect alibi. I'll just say, all the videos did it. But that's what I mean. It's just so ridiculous, the whole thing. It was very hard to be, I was one of about 4 voices at the time who was fighting, which seemed to be the whole of the world. And you just had to put your head above the parapet and say, look, what you're saying is complete rubbish, and you just had to keep banging on about it. And because I was writing for magazines, I was sort of given a softer sort of like reaction than probably what most people did, because they daren't say too much to me because I could go in there and write about it, which was one of my mainstays. But I really thought that here was a chance. I had to go out there and say the stuff I really felt, because I couldn't have lived with myself otherwise if I hadn't done that.
Is that important as well, because you're somebody who's creative, that writes you're expressing yourself, and this is what these filmmakers were doing as well. So I imagine that having these filmmakers being restricted on what they make isn't right. You should be able to be free creative.
I don't think the filmmakers worldwide ever felt restricted, did they, Alan? Really? I mean, they probably didn't know what was going on in the UK.
Really.
So it's a bit like Tom with Centipede 2, to bring that back. But he honestly did not realise the controversy and the furore that it was going to cause.
I always remember when David Cronenberg turned up when Crash was having all that trouble, and he literally came and he said, I don't understand it. What's going on? He said, it's only the UK this ever happens in. So even he realised there was very much a localised thing. And of course, what we're talking about is half these films, let's be honest, were complete rubbish. And if if the authorities above us couldn't actually see that the gore was a joke, that the acting was amateur in this, that the direction was like dreadful, and they actually thought this was serious art. Crazy. That's how stupid it actually was.
And while we've got you here, can we have a quick chat about FrightFest and what we've got coming up in August?
Wow, it's 64 films over 5 screens at the View, Leicester Square, 5 days, 150 plus guests. It's going to be the biggest and best ever, and it's a sensational lineup. We're so pleased. It ticks every box. If you're into any form of genre at all, we're going to deliver something that you're going to love.
We've made very, very sure that the programme is as tight and as fantastic as it can possibly be. I don't think we're missing any films that the fans actually want. I think we've got them all there that they need to see in the best surroundings, and I just think it was really important for us to actually make sure we delivered exactly the biggest, the best, the most fabulous thing that they could do. So I'm really happy about it. I mean, there's some great films, The Guest, The Signal, The Samurai. There is just so many to list, but you just got to come along and see something, because you will see stuff there and have the best sort of community spirit anywhere in London.